would like to welcome you to Bifed 2022, to our 9th edition of the festival. And I'm very happy that you're here and that you accepted our invitation to be a member of the jury this year. Let's start with your awarded movie, which was the 3rd award last year, To Calm the Pig Inside. What inspired you to make that movie?
So, the film is about the super typhoon that hit the Philippines and the aftermath. And back in 2013, I had spent so much time in the affected areas, which was in Tacloban and Giwan. And after seeing this devastation and then meeting people, we decided to start a scholarship program. So I also spent a lot of time with the students. We decided to get students and offer some kind of scholarship. So we got to know students, we got to know teachers, and they slowly started telling us their stories. And I felt like their stories were so different, were quite a bit different from what we were reading in the news. They were much more personal, and after spending all this time, that's when I decided to start to make the film. So I collected different stories from around. And when I mean stories, I decided to collect, not just their trauma, but also how they dealt with it. So then eventually I thought, what do I do with these stories? I need to make something out of it. So that's how To Calm the Pig Inside was born.
The film is very different from what I've seen before, because usually it's about the aftermath of what they did, how they dealt with the material loss, and how about future projections about the climate change. So I saw those kind of movies. So this feels very different because it's about the inside, and I really liked it. It's a poetic film, and we really enjoyed it to have it with us.
Thank you. I'm really, really happy that it was selected here, and because of that, I'm here this year. So, great honor for me. But in terms of, to be honest, my original intention wasn't about the environment. It was really more, it was just these very moving stories that I thought wasn't shared. So that was really my overriding intention, I suppose. But in the end, these are the people that are affected. When you talk about climate change, yes, these are the final people that are affected, and we seem powerless almost and voiceless. So it was trying to give voice to people who aren't really normally heard, I think.
About your style, you're a videographer or documentary maker. How would you describe yourself?
So far I've made, this is my 4th film, and in terms of my documentaries, when you look at all 4 of them, I think they're a bit different. But the one thing that they all have in common, they're actually quite personal, even if they're not, a story about me necessarily, but I inject a lot of, I inform a lot of it through things I know or live through somehow, which I guess most filmmakers maybe do. And one thing I realized, actually in all of my films, there's always still photographs. And then this time, the majority, or at least half of the film is still photographs. Sometimes still photographs captures a moment better than a whole video, I suppose. Yeah.
Let's go back a bit again to the typhoon. So every year, more and more typhoons are touching your country, right?
So actually, on average, we're a place that is hit by typhoons, we're hit by earthquakes, and on average we have about 20 typhoons that cross the Philippines. That was also part of the problem why people didn't evacuate, because they really did think it was just another typhoon. And what happens is when people evacuate, they're afraid their stores or their houses will be looted, and they'll come back with nothing in it. So that's a part of the reason they didn't leave. But what has happened is the typhoons are getting stronger and stronger. So this super typhoon Yolanda Haiyan happened in 2013. This film came out in 2020. It premiered January 2020. By October, November, we had almost 2 categorized already as super typhoons. Maybe not as strong as Yolanda, but still a lot of damage. Yeah.
And just a couple of weeks ago, the Caribbean was hit again in an incredible way, and even the United States. But
yes,
nobody's listening.
So the few places where I actually attended and had Q&As, you know, so the first time we screened this was in Slam Dance in America, in Utah. And we had guests from all over the world, including the Bahamas, the UK, and a lot of them came up to me and were saying, this is exactly what happens to our country, or we didn't realize typhoons could be that powerful or that strong.
Yeah. We had this film years ago, and it was called Aftermath, and it was about the tsunami. And it was about a small island, also about what happened afterwards. I think these are important stories to show what's happening afterwards when these people come back to their places to live, right?
Yeah.
And how to deal with what has happened. And I think in your film, this is shown very strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure about other places, but one of the things that did happen here, which was not touched upon, unfortunately, was the mental health of people. There were no resources really, but so I mentioned how I ended up spending so much time here. I was actually working on a foreign film, and I was one of the few Filipinos that was on set. So when they saw the foreigners and me, some locals would come up to me like soon after the typhoon and would say, can you help us? Can you help me? Because my children are so traumatized. And you know, every time they hear the rain now or a little bit of wind, they're so scared and crying. And they're like, we need help. But, you know, it wasn't really, I mean, in a way, understandably so. Most of the resources were first going, you know, making sure people are fed, maybe they have water. But eventually, I think they moved on and didn't necessarily think about the mental health.
It happened also here in the earthquake areas. After the earthquake, the children were left because everybody was concentrated on working on how to recreate the material life. And the mental health in all these situations is really, really disturbingly left out of the picture.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So, could you say some words about how you feel here in the festival and after our online meetings?
So to be honest, I'm really excited. I mean, really, I mean it. Like, I'm so excited to be here. I really love the smaller you know, I love small festivals because you get to meet other filmmakers.
Geçin lütfen.
Yeah. Yeah. So my film world premiered in January of 2020, like a month or 2 months before the whole world basically shut down. And my film subsequently traveled all around the world while I was locked down in Manila. I actually didn't quite mind, but after over a year, I was excited to start leaving again. And in fact, in the Philippines, I went to an island and stayed there. And then just this year, I was looking forward to leaving again. But this is actually the first festival I've attended since the premiere of my film. So I'm very excited. It's a lovely festival. It's small. I get to meet a lot of very interesting people. I love the setting. So I'm going to tell everybody I know about, you know, because I've actually, since my film premiered, especially in the second year, it's been in a lot of environmental film festivals and also some environmental workshops. So I'll be sure to spread the word. So you're going to get even more entries.
Yeah. What are your plans for the next project?
I have quite a few plans, and there's some films that I actually started working on. Some are in development, some I started writing. The one thing I did start shooting though was during the pandemic. I was stuck on this island for 5 months. Yeah, so in terms of my future projects, there's some projects I had put on hold for a long time, some documentaries. I'd like to revisit them. Some of them take place in China, another one takes place in Myanmar. But there's one that I actually started shooting, and that was when I was on lockdown in this island in the Philippines. And it was quite a unique experience, so I think I'm going to start revisiting that footage and maybe editing it. Yeah.
This was not a very good interview situation, sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah.
But thank you very much for
Yeah.
being with us. And,
Thank you for inviting me and having me.